What's up, boys and girls? This is Spit Logic. So I have had the SP4 for MKII for I think it's getting close to a month. I don't even think it's been a month yet. But what I wanted to do is just kind of quickly go over how I operate when I'm processing beats, when I am creating beats. And I'm just going to go over a few. This is kind of going to look like partially a tutorial, but just partially just to kind of chronicle, after having this thing for close to a month, how I go through the process of making beats with what I have learned over the past couple of weeks. So first of all, I'll just kind of start off basic. Shift is your friend. Shift and subpad, which is going to be project, and this is going to allow you to create a new project. So I'm going to go to bank 7, number 7. So this is now project 7, and as you can see, all of these keys are blank. There's nothing on them. Now, when I start to create a project, I typically like to get my samples off of vinyl. That is the primary source where I like to get my vinyl. So we're going to start off by grabbing a sample. This is going to be a song that I heard the beginning of, and I said, okay, that's going to be a good source, but certainly I haven't heard it all the way through, so I believe this is going to turn out okay, but we're about to find out. So if you can see right here at the top on the two top phono line inputs, this is where I have it coming straight out of my turntables into the SP. And then of course, if you want to sample, so this button external source is lit up, and that is because it is going to be receiving input externally. Now, what you can do if you want, you hit shift and you hit external source, and it's going to show you the different input options. So you see right here at the top where it says routing mix. A mix means that it's going to be coming from all the different sources are open, so all the different sources can receive input. And then I believe if you turn it extension in, and I think there's a third one, right? No, it's only two. Okay, so a mix does all of the analog plus the digital. Extension in, I believe, only does the analog, or I think it only does the USB-C input. Again, I don't know a lot about this device. I'm pretty sure there's some sort of tutorial that tells you the exact, but mix is really where I keep it on, because that is exactly where I can hear things from. So I have my record hooked up, so I'll exit out of that. And another thing that I like to do, I like to kind of look at, is to look at the effects settings. So shift effects, and you can see right here the equalizer and the compressor are on. When it's on bus 3 and 4, that means that even the inputs coming in is going to have an equalizer and a compressor on there. I don't want that, so I just go until it says bypass. So now it's going to come in kind of the raw record itself. So I'll hit exit, and then in order to record, I'll hit record button, and it's going to ask me which pad I want to record into. Now I will go with pad 1, and you see it says wait. What it's waiting for is the sound. It's sort of a passive kind of intelligent trigger waiting for that sound to start for it to begin recording. So I'm going to start the record, and it should start recording. All right, so I'm going to just keep it there, and then I'm going to hit record again, and it says record complete. Now, when I hit pad 1, it's going to play that sample that I just recorded, right? So if you want to see the waveform, you hit start and end, and it's going to show you the waveform. Now, obviously you can't see a lot. The waveform looks very low because I recorded it very low. The volume was very low. A good thing that you can do when you see that volume low, if you push the enter button, it'll bring up the menu, and you have these 4 options. If you go to normalize and hit normalize, what happens is it looks a lot fatter. So it kind of levels out that sample, or it levels out the audio, but it makes it, it gives it a little bit more gain, a little bit more meat onto the sample. So now when I turn it on, it sounds a lot more robust. It's a more robust sound, right? Now that I have the sample, what I want to do is I want to create markers onto the sample and just put them into individual pads to kind of make my beat. A lot of people that I know enjoy taking kind of long form samples, the entire samples. I am more of a fan of kind of taking chops and pieces of a sample, very small pieces, and then kind of mixing them up. So that's the kind of music I like to make when I use samples. So what I'll do, what I typically do, I'll just listen to the sample that I have, and then just kind of in my head, kind of mark in my brain where I want to mark it before I go into chopping mode. So if you hit this, it will stop the moment you let it go. You see that gate right there? If you press the gate button, it will play all the way through. Now, the thing is, I don't know how to do it any other way. When it's not in gate mode, I have to hit exit for it to stop. All right, let me go back into start in so you can see the loop. Now, another way to do that is you can hit the pad and you hit the hold button, and it will play it all the way through as well, right? So hit hold and let go, and it plays all the way through. The difference here is that you hit that again and it stops. So that has a lot of options. There are a lot of options in this sample. I think just for the purposes of this video, I'm probably just going to chop up kind of the beginning towards the end of that particular sampler loop. Now with this, you want to go into chop mode. There are a couple of different ways that you can chop a beat up. So first, to get into chop mode, you hit the shift key, and then where that start in, you see right under it, it says chop, and you press chop, okay? And the sample comes back up, but then if you look at the pads, you see that that first pad is lit up. So what it's waiting for you is to hit the pad as if this is the actual sample, and then where you want the next mark or the next sample to go. So you're kind of manually picking where you want each sample to go as the sample is playing in real time. So let's do it for example. All right, so I've pretty much chopped it up like kind of towards the beginning, and the reason for that is I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to kind of make a quick beat. This is kind of a quick tutorial on just how to make those beats. So when you've completed where you want those chops to go, now you have the ability to kind of make adjustments to the markers and where the markers are before you actually assign them to pads. So great feature for this button here, for the enter button, is that you can zoom in. Now these 3 control knobs, this knob is going to take you to each different marker. As you can see, it's scrolling through the sample, or when you hit it with the pad, it will go to that particular marker as well, right? So using this to zoom in, you can kind of decide where you want that marker to exactly be. Now this one right here is going to move where that marker is. This third one right here is actually where you can create and do a new mark. You can figure out, hey, I want to mark this. I missed the mark. I want to add a mark. You would hit the mark button and it'll start you a mark. Now I can't add one because I already did all 16 of these pads, but typically you would have your own mark there that you can have. Actually, well, what I can do is I can go here and you see where it's on that mark. If I hit the delete button, or let's go to number 16. Number 16, if I hit the delete button, that will delete that mark. And as you can see right here, now that 16th pad is no longer lit up. So what I can do, since that 16th pad has left, using this one, just create another one. I hit mark, and now I have my own mark. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get back into it. You cannot manipulate this one at the mark, because that first place where the sample begins is the first mark. So I go to number 2. And the great thing about this device that I love is just being able to see this waveform, even though it's in a kind of more primitive look, more old school, which I love. It's in a more old school digital look. I think that's part of the appeal to it as well. And you can zoom pretty far into the waveform itself and kind of determine exactly where you want to go in, you know? It's about as far as you can zoom in, but you can get really, really exact on where you want those marks to go. So I'll do all the marks here. Okay, so once you have all of your markers marked, then it is time to assign them to pads, right? So what you want to do, you want to hit that press that enter button, and you're going to see a lot of different options. I'm not going to go into the auto mark. Maybe I'll do that for another video, but you want to click down to assign to pad, right? So you hit enter, and then you see all of these pads here blinking yellow. That means they're empty. This is where we put the original sample. You're going to be placing these on these pads right here, right? Now I have 16. So what I typically like to do, especially when I do a new sample, this first bank A, I don't touch that too much. I like to put my drums on bank A. So I'll hit the button, and now I'm on bank F. You see that here, this light is blinking, which means, and you see that AF. So this is bank A, it's a solid. Now when it's blinking, I'm on bank F, okay? And this is where I like to place my samples. Now up here you see mark 1 through 16. That means that's how many places I get to mark where I want all of those samples to go on which pad. And you see right here, mark auto assign from A1, okay? So it's gonna be assigned from the very beginning, from the first sample, the first loop. It's really very typical to just go with the basic loop. I can't remember where all those go, but even if you put a pad in the wrong place, and I'll do that just to show you just how to correct that after you've already assigned the pad. So 2, 3, and you see the numbers corresponding with how it goes, right? So what I'll do here, I'm gonna mess up on purpose. I'll put 16 there, 15 there, right? And then when you hit enter, it's working and it's placing it into where it belongs. It's placing all those pads where it was pressed down. And you can see right here, right? Now, remember earlier when I switched those, I did the pads in the wrong one. I don't want this one here, and I don't want this one here. I want them actually to exchange where they are, right? So the way that I know to do this is the handy shift button again, and you hit pad 5, exchange. You see it lights up, I guess that's a purplish pink color. So you hit the 2 pads you want to exchange, 15, 16. You can do this one of two ways. So you see the copy button blinking, you can hit the copy button and it'll do it, or you can hit enter. And it has switched those two pads now between each other. Okay, so now that you have each of these samples assigned to a pad, one thing that I do, I see a lot of people do this and I do it myself. You want to assign what's considered a mute group, and you want to take the gate off of each individual pad. So I think there's a faster way to do this than what I'm about to do, but this is just how I know because this is how I make beats. So I take my gate off of each of them. Remember, when you take the gate off of something, it's going to play all the way through, right? So I like to take the gate off of this. I might change it later depending on the length of the sample and how much I keep. The only thing I always take the gate off of is the percussion, is the drums. So I like to hear the drums all the way through, the kick all the way through. Anyway, so you want to put them in mute groups. And what mute groups does is that means instead of being able to play two samples at the same time, you'll only be able to play one sample at a time. You can't overlap over each other if they're in the same mute group. So to put them in the same mute group, what you want to do, hold shift, pad 8, and you have all these different mute groups, A through J, just the same number as you do have banks. So we're right now in mute group A. So I just place all of these and you see them lining up red to signify they are being placed in this mute group. Once you've done that, that's all you need to do. Just hit exit and they're all in mute groups now. You cannot play both of them at the same time. They cancel each other out. Another thing that you can do that I've done as well is I like to go through each sample and I like to cut down on the sample. So do I want that entire sample? Let's say I don't. I can change the length of it to where it's only, or if I just want this, right? I could do that. And again, you can zoom in very, very far and get very deep into how far you want to go with that sample. The other thing goes for the start. You can do the same thing with the start, right? And as you zoom in, you know, it'll get a little closer to get a little bit more exact on where you want it to start and stop. Now, if you're done sampling, if you're done editing it and you know for certain you're not going to want to edit it anymore, you hit this button and remember that menu that to normalize it. Truncate it will permanently cut off where you have split the start and end. So if I hit truncate, now you don't see that end part because that end part has disappeared, right? Next thing I like to do is drums. Now, I could sample again from another record. I have drum records or, you know, from another audio source. But another way that you can import or bring in samples is through your SD card. So if you load them on your SD card, you put them in your MKII, you can import them to particular pads. So let's go back to bank A. You see what's blinking. I'm back in bank A, okay? The original sample right there. And you see these are blank. This is where I like to put my drums. Probably from watching videos, almost every video I watch, they always put the drums on the bottom bar. So I'm gonna do the same. So in order to do that, you're gonna hit shift and you're gonna hit pad 14, import, export. It's gonna bring up a menu. So import from SD card, that's what I wanna do. Sample, and then have a plethora of samples to go through. Now, when you're going through these different samples and trying to determine which one you want to use, that sub pad will give you a preview of that sample, right? Let's just go with that one. So to put it where you want it, you want to press the pad you want it to go to, and you see that one stop blinking, which means it's ready. And then when you hit enter, the pad is there, right? And now this has the same color as the original sample. So there it is. There's the sample right there. All right. So right now I have, you know, pretty simple, pretty basic drum kit. So you can exit out, exit again, and you're back in, right? Now, one thing I like to do, like I said before, take the gate off of each of these and so I have my drums. At this point, what I typically do is I just play around with the sample. I just start hitting the pads until I come with the sequence that I think is going to be good enough to kind of record. So now that you have that established, what I typically like to do is I like to start creating patterns, different kinds of patterns to kind of link together and create a single song. So what I do, I go into pattern mode. Okay, that's how I start. And when I start, I like to build the foundation before I start playing with the samples into the recording. So I might do the drums first. Typically I do the hi-hat. I don't do different hi-hats too often. So I could easily do the hi-hat first and just kind of record that to kind of use that as a basis. So you're in pattern mode, you're going to hit record. And you saw it say select pad for recording. So you see these glowing red, it's asking you for a pad. So we'll start here. See the BPMs right here. I like to do mine up to 4 bars typically. This thing goes all the way up to 64. But I like to keep it either 4 or 8 bars, and then quantization anywhere between 50 and 60s. Typically for any sort of percussion. All right. And then when you hit record, it's going to count down 1 bar, and then you're going to go straight into it. So I hit record again, 2, 3, 4. So now I have the hi-hat in there. If you hit record again, you are now in rehearsal mode. Now what that means is that no matter what you do now, it will not record anything that you do. So one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know why it does it sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, but when you hit record in the middle of the pattern, it'll tell you to wait until you come back to the beginning of that pattern. Let's see if it does it here. No, it goes straight to recording, so it's fine here. Straight into the drums. All right, so that's really just simply how you make an initial pattern. Sorry this wasn't as elaborate or as technical as some of the other videos that you may see, but this is how I have pretty much every day. I think I've started some sort of new pattern or some sort of new track pretty much every day by one of these methods, either by record or by other sampling means. So that's all I got for now, boys and girls. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Peace.